Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us here today. My name is Vesna, and I'm the president of Margaret McNamara Education Grants, also known as MEG. So on behalf of MEG, let me say how very excited we are to have you all here and to be hosting this MEG Talks panel today on grassroots poverty reduction, the impact of women leaders on the ground. Thank you to all who have worked very hard to pull off this event, Brenda, Claudia, Karina, Sandrine, as well as the entire MEG team, with special thanks to outgoing board member Priscilla Lynn for originating these talks. I'd like to express my and the MEG board's sincere appreciation to our sponsors and partners who made this event possible: the World Bank Treasury, the World Bank Prosperity, Poverty, and Equity Department, the Bank Fund Credit Union, and the World Bank Family Network. Thank you all very much for your support. It's a big honor for MEG to receive this support that recognizes our work in championing extraordinary women. Today, we're very proud to spotlight Anamika Priyadarshini and Monica Brenda Longwe, two exceptional MEG grantees and two very inspiring examples of women's excellence and leadership. As you may know, MEG provides education grants to women pursuing university-level studies. Our mission is to improve the lives of women and children by supporting the higher education of exceptional women from developing countries who will catalyze change. For 44 years, we have awarded grants to outstanding women. As of today, we're just short of 600 grants to women from 79 countries. The impact of our grants goes beyond the women recipients to produce community and generational gains. MEG is a volunteer-run charity and depends on donations and contributions. So we cannot do this without you. Our deepest thanks again this year to all our individual donors, as well as corporate donors, Bank Fund Credit Union, and EY. Donations are crucial and enable us to continue to award grants to exceptional women. We are honored to have today with us as our opening speaker, Jorge Familiar, Vice President and Treasurer of the World Bank. Jorge is also a former member of the Board of Executive Directors, Vice President for the Latin America and Caribbean region, World Bank Group Corporate Secretary, and World Bank Group Controller. As our moderator, we are honored also to have Gabriela Inchauste. Gabriela is Practice Manager in the Global Unit of the Prosperity, Poverty, and Equity Global Department at the World Bank. She has served as lead poverty economist in various regions, and she has also led technical and policy efforts on the methods and tools to decompose changes in poverty and inequality and the barriers to women's labor force participation and agency. Thank you all again very much for being here. After our discussion, we welcome you to enjoy lunch with us. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to our opening speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And look, it's a real honor for the World Bank Treasury to host this version of the Margaret McNamara Education Grants talks. We are big fans of MMEG. We are convinced that the work that MMEG does is not only consistent with our mission, but it's essential to create leaders that are going to transform the world. And look, maybe it's hard to build a link between Treasury and what you do, and why would Treasury be interested in supporting the event that is taking place today. But let me tell you something. From my perspective, I strongly believe that we cannot be serious about poverty reduction if we're not serious about inclusion. And when we think about inclusion, the key group to fully include in economic activities is the female participation in economic activities. And when we think about the relevance of this, what immediately comes to mind is our World Development Report on Gender of many years ago, no? That had a fantastic phrase which said gender equality is not only the right thing to do from a moral point of view, it also makes absolute sense from an economic point of view. So, we not only support events like this, we also put our money where our mouth is. We have a very strong, women in finance network within Treasury and Pension, where, we strive to create the right conditions to include more women into our own financial market activities here at the World Bank, at the World Bank Treasury. And what we are doing here today, again, is perfectly consistent with that objective. The other partnership that we have, which I believe is also very well aligned with what the Margaret McNamara Education Grant is doing, is we have this internship program. So every year we have an internship program where we invite 20 rising seniors from college to come to the Treasury to experience what it is to work in financial markets, what it is to work in the World Bank. And then we invite some of them back as analysts, junior analysts with the Treasury for 2 years. And one of the things that we noted was that in order to be fully aligned with our commitment to gender equality, we needed to strengthen our partnership. So we developed a partnership with a very interesting institution, which is called Girls Who Invest, in which we are ensuring that some of these positions go to women, because finance is an area that can really benefit from female participation. So, without further ado, I think that today, how we have a very interesting panel. We will hear from 2 MMEG grantees, and I think that we will all benefit from your experience, from your interactions and real case, real life situations that are very relevant to the issue of equality. So thank you so much, and welcome to the World Bank, and welcome to the World Bank Treasury. Thank you.
Many thanks, and Jorge, and thank you all for being here. My name is Gabriela Inchauste, as was said before. I'm the practice manager for the global unit of the Poverty and Equity Global Practice here at the bank, and we were thrilled to have the invitation to focus on poverty in this talk. And also, I've been delighted to meet our grantees here, who have been not only working in this space, working towards the eradication of poverty, but doing so very much focused on the women's role and how that is actually critical, right, to our overall goal of eliminating poverty around the world. So we've prepared a couple of, we're going to go through a little bit of a question and answer and really get everyone to know these extraordinary ladies, and make sure that we cover the topic today. So what I'd like to start off with is asking them what in your views are the key constraints to poverty reduction, and how do these affect women in particular? What is special about women and poverty reduction? Maybe start with Amika first, and then we move on. Sure.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Margaret McNamara Foundation, and everybody at the bank for having us here. So coming to the question, what are the factors, key factors? I think we live in a society and economy where a person's, economic worth is a very important determinant of her existential worth also. So if you are denying women's economic contribution, you are actually denying her existential reality also. And I think that's a huge challenge, the non-recognition of women's contribution to economy and society, which is rampant across all the societies. For instance, right now I'm mainly working with women farmers, and I know it's across farm and non-farm sector, majority of women's contribution is not recognized. Like globally, they are playing, I think, more than 40% of agriculture work is done by women. In Asia, agriculture is employing almost 70% of women workers of the total population of women workers. But still, we are not able to recognize women as farmers. And I mean, it never hit our conscience until Bozarab came up with her study on women farmers back in 70s. And even now we are struggling with the ability to recognize women as worker or recognize women as farmer. It doesn't hit our conscience, and I think that is very important. So that is one. Then second is, I think, acute time poverty that women and girls are facing across societies. In India, I can share you, in 2019, we had our first time use survey, and that survey data is showing that a woman in general spending 19% of her time in unpaid work, domestic and care work and all kind of work, whereas men are spending only 2-point-something%. And even if you you unpack that data, you see that 19% time is spent on doing unpaid work for others, not for herself. Whereas men are doing majority of unpaid work for their personal care, personal grooming, whatever. So what's happening that you're not getting time to prepare yourself for the workforce. You're not getting time to focus on your education, work preparedness, skill training, etc. So that acute time poverty is actually pushing you. You're not in the competition, you're out, and you're not prepared. So that, I think, is another huge issue that's affecting women, along with many other factors. For instance, we know that labor market is highly gendered, and it's not just for poor people, it's across all class, all sector gender norms. I mean, Claudia Golden got her Nobel Prize for her theory on greedy work and mommy track, and that is for women senior leaders. So there also women face many forms of discrimination. So here, we know that gender market is highly gendered, and women are pushed into poor women are especially pushed into kind of work that cannot be remunerated or that cannot be recorded. So that's a huge challenge. And finally, I think, these social norms that kind of compel families to deprioritize poor women and poor girls' needs and requirements. So girls and women's access to basic resources that is essential for their capabilities development is constrained. So, I mean, at all level, they are anemic, their health is affected, they are not able to go and complete their education, they are not prepared for the workforce. So these all factors are ultimately pushing them to be, trapped in poverty, I think. So there are many factors, but I'll just limit myself to these three. Thank you.
Thank you, Amika. Maybe over to you, Monica, if you can, from your point of view. What is it about women, and what are the key constraints to poverty reduction?
All right. Thank you so much. Firstly, I'm glad that when he was opening the meeting, he said that we won't achieve economic empowerment if we don't include women. And I think that's a very important factor. But what else does it mean to include women in the economic activities? So I want to highlight the role of mental health in everything, and I think that's quite a missing link in the conversations and in the frameworks of poverty. I think we all agree that mental health is the foundation for productivity across the board. You don't have to have a diagnosis to function. Sometimes we go through struggles and our mental health is affected, and we all know how it feels to be at zero in terms of mental health. And I wanted to highlight the reason why this is very important for women, because I think women carry a load in the households, in the workplaces. We do carry families, we do carry communities, and there's a lot of things that are at play. And I speak from a personal experience when I talk about mental health, because I've been in places that broke me, and I wasn't able to participate in economic activities, in work activities, in school activities. So I think mental health is very, very important to consider in the poverty frameworks and in the prosperity of not just women, but everyone. And for women in particular, one of the things I think that affect the mental health of women is domestic abuse and domestic violence. Women are abused left, right, center, not only in the homes, but even in the workplaces. It affects the mental health. And I've got a paper here. I want to define mental health according to WHO. And I didn't want to paraphrase, so I'm going to read. It says, mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes their own potential. And they should be able to cope with normal stresses, can work productively, and contribute to the economy and to their communities. So how do women contribute to the community and to the economy when they're not okay? A woman who's been abused in the home cannot function. A woman who's been mistreated in the workplace cannot function. So I want to highlight that because the work that I do focuses on mental health, and it's based on a lived experience, my own lived experience. I was diagnosed with mental health, and it affected a lot of things. If I was to cost it, I think I lost a lot of opportunities economically. So I think that women are handling a lot. I think that they are carrying a burden that should be lessened, and I think we should make sure that women are winning in the homes and in the workplaces as well. So I just wanted to highlight the role that mental health plays in making sure that women are being productive. Yeah, thanks.
Great. No, thank you so much. So we've been hearing a couple of views, and if you look, think back to the World Development Report that Jorge had mentioned on gender, you will remember that World Development Report had 3 pillars. One that had to do with the endowments that women have. So here we're talking about their health, their education, their building their capacity to contribute productively to a society. Then it also had a pillar on their ability to participate in economic activities, so their labor force participation. So you could be very educated but stay home. So it's not enough to be educated, it's also important to participate and have the opportunity to contribute to not just through the labor force, but also to have access to credit, have access to the different markets that make you productive. But then the third pillar was the agency pillar, which was super important. And this is about the empowerment that women feel and have to actually make a difference. So this is including, the fact that they are, free from violence, free from abuse, their ability to make decisions on their own, their ability to influence not only their lives, but the lives of their family and the lives of society, their participation in the political process, their participation in the corporate life of a country, etc. So I think we are talking about these 3 pillars from these ladies' points of view, which is kind of encouraging that report is still very much relevant. Let me continue with just really, since this is the Margaret McNamara event, I wanted to hear a little bit about their own stories and how this scholarship program has to some extent influenced what they've done, what they've achieved, and a little bit how that experience, those experiences, their experiences, their personal experiences has colored their views on development. So.
Okay. Before I begin, I just wanted to share that I was part of this 1999 World Development Report, which was published in 2000. I was part of collecting data in India for that. So because we are talking a lot about World Development Report, I thought that I should share. Anyway, coming to my personal story and how it has helped, how the Margaret McNamara. So I think I do believe that I was really privileged to grow up in a family where my mother was a social worker, and she was leading a team that was facilitating a community to adapt alternative or dignified, respectful livelihood. Now, these communities was traditionally engaged in manual scavenging. So that is like, you can imagine, they were like last mile people, poorest of the poor, untouchable in Indian society within the caste hierarchy. So she was working with this community and helping them, like they were providing training in making cane furniture, embroidery, etc. So consider becoming an entrepreneur, thinking about alternative livelihood, and not just economic, but also social transformation. And what I saw her, like, for me, it was natural, because the way she used to deal with the beneficiary was like, they are her colleagues. She would share her day-to-day struggles, her stories. She would listen to them. She would eat with them. She was like friends with these people. And for me, for us, they were people. And that really helped me a lot later. I realized much later. That time I was not realizing. But much later I realized that my mother's training has helped me in seeing people as people, with respect, with dignity, and in a very non-judgmental kind of approach. So I think that really helped me. I can share a very small example. For instance, I was working, because we are talking a lot about domestic violence, so I was doing this study with women panchayat leaders. Panchayat is local governing bodies. And we came across many women leaders who would discourage women to report incidences of domestic violence. Now, in one go, if you look at it from women's empowerment perspective, this is blatantly wrong, and this is, pushing women, suppressing women, and women leaders are doing this. And the standard statement, pretty popular in India, women are women's enemies, all those kinds of narrative you can hear. But when you dig deeper, what I realized is that these women started telling it, going to police has lots of cost implications for the family, for a poor family. A court case has lots of implications. So it's so nuanced and so layered that because I was able to see it in a non-judgmental manner, I think I could respectfully understand it. So I think that helped me. And later I could connect with people. So that really helped me in many ways as a development professional, as a teacher, as a researcher. It helped me in many ways. Coming to Margaret McNamara Fellowship, I got this fellowship when I was working on my doctoral dissertation, and that was on 19th century Bihar's women home-based workers. So now it's very difficult to find data on informal workers even now, so forget about 19th century. So one of the very authentic document was Francis Hamilton Buchanan's statistical survey of colonial Bengal. I was doing in Bihar, and Bihar was part of colonial Bengal presidency, so the data was there. And it was like detailed statistical survey. It had like everything about work, about what kind of plants are available, what kind of agriculture is happening, everything. It's like you cannot imagine how detailed it was. But when I started looking for women worker, it was a huge struggle for me. I couldn't find women worker in those official statistics. Man was recognized as the worker, and women, like if I turn like 20, 30 pages, then I find like very small, trivial, man and his wife, the wife of the worker, the family of the worker. And I think that is the beginning of the invisibilization of women's contribution to the economy, women's identity as the worker. And that, the credit goes to Margaret McNamara Foundation, because I got this fellowship, I could collect this data, and I think this really helped me in shaping my work in future also. So I'm really grateful to Margaret McNamara Foundation for this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my story is very long. I'll try to highlight the key important things that relate to the grant itself. So I was given the grant in 2013, and maybe just to give you a background, I was raised by a widow. My dad died in 1997, so my mom I come from a family of six children, and 3 of whom suffer from sickle cell anemic. They were born with sickle cell anemic. And when my dad died, my mom had to look after us, all of us, single-handedly, and then we lost a brother to sickle cell. So sickle cell, I'm not sure if all you know, sickle cell is it's a chronic illness, and she had to look after the kids by herself. And I learned from my mother how to be strong, how to take care of myself, and how to take care of everyone around me. So I grew up watching my mother. And so coming to to the grant, in 2013, I was doing my master's at Wits, and I was paying for myself, but it happened that the project that I was working on, the donor withdrew, and I was out of my job, so it meant that I couldn't pay for my school fees. I had to travel from South Africa from Malawi to South Africa to attend courses, and that was a cost. But then I applied for the Margaret McNamara Foundation, and I was given the grant, and that allowed me to complete my master's. So I'm very grateful, because I think I'm here today because of that. I was able to complete, I was doing my master's in public health. I specialized in social and behavior change communications. It allowed me to work in South Africa. I'm currently a public health specialist. I support the government of South Africa on TB projects. And that's all because of the grant that I received, and I'm so grateful. In terms of the work that I'm doing and what I've been doing, what I've been talking about mental health, I've got a lived experience, and I still attribute it to the grant, because I think the skills and the expertise and everything has allowed me to be where I am. How my personal experience has contributed to the work that I'm doing. Sorry, it gets a bit personal, but I was abused. I was in a marriage for 10 years, and I was abused to the point where I left the marriage, and I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety 2 years later. At the time that I was diagnosed, I had enrolled for my PhD, but I couldn't continue. And that's why I said that if you quantify the cost of mental health, you will understand that the cost is way too high. You can't even quantify it. I wasn't able to continue with my PhD. I had to take leave of absence for a year because I was hospitalized in a psychiatric ward. I was on treatment for 2 years. In those 2 years, I wasn't able to do anything. I wasn't able to move in my work. I was able to maintain my job because my employer was supportive. And I'm grateful. I was employed by Oram Institute then. But it's very difficult to talk about mental health, to open up, because the stigma attached to it can, But I was in a foreign country. I had 3 kids that I had to take care of, and I wasn't able to perform in my work, and I needed to open up to my employer and tell them I'm not okay, because then I was hospitalized. So my employer was very supportive, and they had to make plans to make sure that I'm still working. And I think that allowed me to keep my job. But in those 2 years when I was taking treatment, I wasn't able to do anything else. I wasn't able to even perform in my job, because I would just sit in bed the whole day and look at the ceiling and do nothing. So if anyone has had depression here before, you know that even to just open the laptop, it's a tall order. Even to just type received thanks, it's a tall order. And this is why I started an initiative called Fight Club, which I support women in Malawi who are going through this. I started by telling them my story because of what I went through. I sat down the other day, I was thinking, how many other people are going through this? And how many other people are suffering in silence and cannot talk? So I decided to open up a safe space for women to talk about what they're going through, and I support them, take them through, because I've been there. I was broken, but then I got treatment and everything. So I try to encourage women to support them through the process. So I do what I do because I know how it feels to be there. I know that it's easy for a woman to lose brain power, to lose economic power, to lose everything. Actually, you're down to zero. You're down to nothing when you're there. So this is how my personal experience informed what I do right now. I've got about, when I started telling my story, a few other women came and said, me too, I'm also going through this. And those who had healed, who had come to a point where they were okay, were also saying, we're willing to help others. So we are about 15 women. There are 2 psychologists, there are 2 life coaches, there's one who supports the women spiritually, and just a few survivors who just share their stories. And we find that it's helpful because every person who's in survival mode is incapacitated. So we try to make sure that we are supporting them, we're empowering them. So yeah, that's how my personal experience has shaped everything that I do now. Thank you.
Many thanks, and really thank you to both of you for sharing these personal stories. They are also an inspiration for all of us who work in this area. So now getting back to sort of trying to figure out, well, okay, given your views in terms of what matters, what are some strategies or policy interventions that you feel are most important to address the constraints to poverty reduction? Maybe we can do one final round with that.
Okay, so we both of us were talking about lots of issues, and I think addressing those issues definitely, it could be time poverty, addressing like how we could address that issue. We know that safety is a huge concern. It's World Bank economist Girja Burkar who did a very good study on how women in Delhi students are not able to take up the kind of courses they want to do, and that is kind of middle class and privileged class. Safety is a huge concern. Poor women need work around their home. They need care support, childcare support, and we need to think about, be really imaginative, because creche is not something, that's a foreign entity for them, so they might not be. So we need to think about lots of things. And there are many conventional recommendations, but I will come back to something else. And I think we have like tons of policies and strategies, but it's very important to see, are they working? And do we have data on analyzing like what we have, like these existing policies, how effective these are? And if these are effective, can we scale it? Can we remodel it? Or if it is not effective, what needs to be done? How we can tweak it? So I think that is very important, because we come up with a new policy while not looking at what hasn't worked in existing policy. One, I think, example of Bangladesh is very important, where there was a time, I think back in about 10 years ago, they would not just come up with policy, but hand-holding also, follow-up also, because these are for very underprivileged, poor women who maybe do not know about it. They need that information, access to resources, and then hand-holding to avail the benefits from the existing policies. So I think that is very important. Other than that, I think when we are, we all are, many of us are engaged in generating evidence on poverty and gender. But what I realize is that it's like a race. Everybody is entering the field with lots of questions, and sometimes I see that you are asking a 40-page long question. You go to ask, interact, a poor woman responded with a 40-page long questionnaire, and we all know after half an hour she's going to tell you what you want to hear. So you are not going to get what is required to inform policy. So I think we need to be very careful about what kind of evidence we are generating. And when we are talking about gender and poverty, it's very important to have the gender lens. Otherwise, it becomes, adding and stripping gender. Oh, we have gender data also. We have gender segregated data. But how was it gathered? How much prepared we are while we are designing our methodology when we are dealing with gender and poverty. So I think these are two. And then I work for Hayford International, and we have something very interesting which is coming from my personal experience also. We are investing in social capital, building social capital. That has played a very important role. We have Arkansas University did a study also on how social capital, investing in social capital, has influenced women in women's collectives and supporting each other, helping each other in times of crisis, or envisioning something new, something productive, some livelihood coming up, and this understanding and internalization that we need to support each other as a society, otherwise it's very difficult to survive. So this is one thing. Second, there was one more point I think I'm not able to remember, but I think social capital evidence, like new experiment also. Like when we talk about evidence, not only evidence, we need to have some context-specific models also, preparedness to what is working for women, what is working for poor women. Yesterday, Anna Maria and we were having a conversation. We were talking about agglomeration model, which has been a good experiment in Malawi, actually. But the condition was the farmer should have at least 1 hectare land. Now, back in India, I can see these farmers do not have 1 hectare. Many of them are landless or sharecropper. So can we think about agglomeration model for this landless woman, landless sharecropper? So we really need to be imaginative and creative and come up with something that really works for women. And I think that would be another recommendation from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I think I just want to highlight before I go to the strategies and the policies that poverty and mental health are just two sides of the same coin. So one begets the other. When you're poor, you get mental health issues. When you've got mental health, it's easy for you to fall into poverty as well. So I do think that there is still insufficient evidence on the causal pathways, and I think there is a lot of every donor is looking for evidence on how is this possible. Where's the evidence? So I think that there is a research gap there, even though that there is a lot of evidence that's coming up, but I think it's new. So I think the research gap is there. And in terms of policies, in Malawi, we just got the Mental Health Act updated since 1948. I think it was passed last month. Rachel, I've got my friend there from Malawi. Was it last month? Yeah. So I've got my support system here. Yeah, so since 1948, it was updated. It was purely medical. There was no human rights aspect in it. There was no social aspects on it. So I just looked at it, I think, and I was happy that they've made this move. But you can imagine how long it took. And it only tells you that mental health is really not being prioritized, because since 1948, they only get back to the document now. So I think there's really need to strengthen the policies. And in terms of the strategies, I think that we need specific interventions for the women, especially considering the burden that they carry and the different challenges that they face. Women can't be treated in the same way that they're being treated, because I think we need to consider the other factors that are affecting them. I was also thinking the other day the role of socialization and social norms and how it plays into keeping women in toxic situations and in trauma bonds. I think it's important to also make that. It will require a paradigm shift, though. And I'm speaking about this because I specialize in social and behavior change communication. So I change behaviors, and I know it takes long to change cultural norms, social beliefs, and everything. But that's what's required. I think for those of us who are raising girls, I'm doing that with my daughter. I've got a 11-year-old daughter. I usually ask her, what have you learned from mommy? She says, I've learned to love myself. You know, she knows that she has to walk away when she's not loved. She knows how, you know, I don't think that I knew how certain toxic, certain types of abuse look like. Emotional abuse, for example, manipulation, control. I didn't know. I had to learn that on the ground. But I think in my work, I try to advocate for starting them while they're young. Let them know what love looks like and what love doesn't look like. Because a lot of women are being traumatized in places where they're supposed to be loved. And that's where they're being abused, and that's where they're losing all the brain power, the health. And mental health also affects your physical health. I had a mini stroke through everything else. So it also affected my left body. So it cost a lot. The cost is really too high. So I think that it's important to look, it's complicated, it's multifaceted, but I think it will take a lot of resources, policies and strategies to get it. It's going to take a long time, but I think we can get there. We just need to advocate, we just need to raise awareness, and we just need to invest in such strategies.
Many thanks to both of you. I think, some good ideas here in terms of the need to validate existing policies, existing instruments, to be careful on the kinds of data that we use, how we gather data, what methods we use, the need to build social capital, and to ensure that when we are proposing anything, it's context specific, and that the evidence that we bring to bear is that. And also, Monica, from your experience, so much to learn about in terms of the need to strengthen policies on this topic, on mental health, particularly for women, and the power that behavioral interventions can potentially have in shaping social norms. And, I think also from the work of the bank, we are convinced that this is something that we cannot leave to the side, because otherwise we won't get to our ultimate objective, which is to affect so many lives out there. So with this, I think, we'd like to thank both of our participants. I don't know if there are time for question and answer from the audience, both here in DC and online. If anyone wants to participate, the mic is open. Thank you. Or if...
Okay, so I don't know which direction I should be standing in, but I'm on the board of MEG, and I had the pleasure of meeting both Anamika and Monica a few weeks ago, and learned about what they're doing. And one of the things that I think the audience might like to hear is, I used to be at the IFC, and we talk about our mission being the reduction of poverty. What I learned from these women is that the work that they're doing every day, Anamika said it, I'm watching people earn more every day. And I think that's what I'd like for you to very quickly tell the audience how you're doing it. And the same with Monica, who created the TB program that was actually rolled out, TB campaign that was rolled out in South Africa for TB by the minister a month ago. So very quickly, if you can just tell this audience what it is you're doing on the ground every day that makes you feel you're making a difference to take people out of poverty. Thank you.
So as I shared, I work with Haver International, and we are focused on smallholder farmers. And when I talk about smallholder farmer in case of India, it's not even 1 hectare and landless and very tiny land. So you have a very tiny land and you have to survive on that. So one thing that we are promoting is integrating livestock within agriculture. We are also promoting climate smart agriculture. I have some impact reports with me. I can share the soft copy with MMEG colleague, and that can be circulated. So this has tremendous. I have worked for more than 20 years, and after coming to Hafer, I could see the immediate impact. You introduce 5-6 goat to a goat farmer, to a smallholder farmer, and within 6 months, the farmer is saying that, yeah, now I can manage. So that is amazing, I think. They're extremely poor people, just small intervention, introducing poultry, introducing goatry, introducing climate smart agriculture, and people are shifting to it. So that has been very promising and positive for me. So yeah, my colleagues are here, so we can talk later also during lunch. Thank you.
Yeah, so I support the government of South Africa on the NTB campaign. So for the first time ever, the government developed a social and behavior change communication, TB strategy. There has been strategies in other areas like HIV, but for the first time, we now have an SPCC strategy for TB. So I'm leading the implementation of that nationwide. And my role is to develop interventions and develop materials for the NTB campaign. So like she said, it was launched by the Deputy President 2 months ago. Was it? Yeah, 2 months ago. Yeah, 2 months ago, so it was quite an achievement, not just for the nation, but for me as well. So what I do is across the cascade, that is prevention, case finding the TB cases, but also making sure that patients are being retained in care. There's a lot of quality improvement work that is happening in the facility, but not much is happening in the communities. So I look at the behaviors to prevent, and as you know, prevention is better than cure. So my role is to actually make sure that people are preventing the disease, and those who have the disease are not being retained in care, to make sure that we are addressing that. So currently, I go across the provinces and they call upon me. Like, for example, now I'm closely working with Gauteng province because they've got a problem with loss to follow up. They've got a lot of patients who start treatment, but they don't come back. And I'm busy now developing materials for them, incentives to get them back to care. Just give them a bottle of water that is branded NTB campaign. Like that's just an example of an intervention. Like when they've been diagnosed, so I've developed a package for the nurse to do the counseling, and they'll tell them, okay, here's the treatment, here's your package, your information, and here's a bottle. You'll get it at 3 months. So treatment is 6 months. So you get this home, take your package home, there's a leaflet, everything you need. And then there is this bottle. When you come back at 3 months, you'll get it. So it's a beautiful bottle. It's branded and it's got beautiful messages. So we are hoping that they'll come back for the bottle. So those are some, those are some of the interventions that I'm designing and the materials. Thank you.
Other questions?
Can I take out? No, I cannot.
Just lean over.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. I am Marian Suba from Liberia, the very first Margaret McNamara grantee 44 years ago. And I get the MEG talks a lot of time, and I join by Zoom, but then I saw this thing that said, you please come in person, because I was here in the US. Well, too many things happening with our different projects in the different countries. But I thought that this was like one of the most interesting topics in terms of what we have been looking at. And I thought that there were like maybe 3 things that I really picked up from you all that I think is very, very significant that I have seen as we work. The whole thing about mental health, like I say to people, is that people talk about health being everything, and then I say without mental health, you have no health. But you also have to really do it in the communities. And if we're talking about grassroots, we need to look at those local solutions. What are people doing that are good? And then how can we go in to enhance them? Not really have our solutions that we take into them that may not really work for them, but what are they doing? So the whole thing of involving them, I heard that a lot of empowering people. But also a very important thing is leadership. Both at the community level, you see that you get there, you have people who have influence and you can work with them. But in our ministries of health and ministries of finance, those places where we have people who they are the decision makers. They decide where things go, but they have no idea about what those things are. And we are saying, we're going to the Ministry of Health to talk about this, but the minister is pushing that we need to be doing the advocacy way and not necessarily with the Ministry of Finance, because then they go and they have their own agenda. But it's very, very significant, this topic, and we hope that we can all learn from it and do something with it, especially at the grassroots with me, looking at local solutions. Thank you.
I just want to say that Marian is a legend in the MEG community. She's our very, very first grantee, and we're very grateful to have you here with us today. I didn't know you were coming, so thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I will lean forward. Hi, my name is Rachel Sibande. I'm originally from Malawi. I work for the Gates Foundation. I lead our artificial intelligence work in Africa. I'm here today to just get inspired by the wonderful women. Wanted to ask what kept you going, the both of you, when the odds got hard? What did you hold on to? Because there are a lot of women that are in non-traditional spaces and it gets really lonely and hard. What kept you going, if we were to hold on to that as well? Thank you.
I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think just being human and being sensitive. And I feel that if we succeed in becoming a sensitive human, it's very difficult to see lots of misery around. And you know that you are trained, you are skilled, you have education, you have background, you have understanding, you have sensitivity. You cannot sit without doing anything. It's kind of a compulsive thing, and it is not that. It's not philanthropy. It's like I cannot bear the pain, and that is why I'm there, and that is why I have to work for a better world, because I can't think of any other thing than this. We all are. I'm sure we are here sitting in this space where all of us are trying in our own little ways or big ways or whatever ways to contribute to the society and economy, and ultimately we want a better world for our children. So I think, yeah, that's all.
I think I can attribute my survival to the support system around me, firstly. And I think I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for my faith. I believed, firstly, I think I've always believed that I've got a purpose to serve. And, at a time when I was down, I felt like this can't be it. This can't be my end. I think I've got a greater purpose. And for me, I think turning my downside into an upside is something that I really wanted to do. I remember that I had it in my journal. It's interesting because I find it hard to explain this. I don't know if people understand it. In my journal 5 years ago, you can find a statement that says, I made it, like I went through this, but I was going through it then, but I was projecting my healing ahead, that one day I'll look back to this day. So I was already seeing myself 5 years ahead, sitting here, telling my story. Yeah, so I think I really wanted to get to that point where I could say, I went through this and I'm here. Thanks.
Thank you both ladies for the inspiration and for your stories. And I think with this, I really thank again to the Margaret McNamara Foundation and to the poverty colleagues who helped put this together, the colleagues who have also been meeting with these lovely ladies. Thank you to all of you. And we hope, we continue to be engaged and that you continue to stay tuned to both the work of the World Bank but also to what they are doing at the country level, at the grassroots level. Thank you very much.